Hello, welcome to week 8, lecture 38. Today I will talk about language families of India. So, firstly I will introduce you to the concept of language family, and then I will talk about different language families of India. In today's class I will concentrate on Indo-Aryan language family. I will talk about the sound systems which are mostly found in the Indo-Aryan languages, morphosyntactic features which are again common for Indo-Aryan languages. So, I will talk about all those. So, when we talk about language family, we need to know what is language family. So, this concept of family is the same that we use in our day-to-day discourse. So, in the same way, group of languages with a common ancestor is taken as a part of one language family. Like the way we talk about our families, where we have one ancestors and then we have other family members. So, it is mostly the same. We have group of languages which share some features, but yet they also carry their own identities. They have their own features as well, which are not shared. So, languages of a same family share some common features, and that is why they are grouped to be part of one family, and also because they are part of a common ancestor. But with the due course of time, these languages can evolve in its own way, and then these languages can develop their own features which can vary among the other group members, and these groups of languages may be mutually unintelligible. So, it is not so that if language A and language B both are part of language X family, then both will be mutually intelligible. They may not be intelligible. So, one speaking language A may not understand language B, yet both of them A and B can be part of one language family. So, that is the concept of language family, to group languages which are believed to have one common ancestor and which of course share common features. So, the languages from which the different languages have evolved is considered to be the proto-language. Sometimes the linguists, they do not know the exact proto-language, but they create the proto-language looking at the sister languages. So, how or what could have been the features of the ancestor language from where all these branches came out. So, this is also like you can think about a tree and then various branches coming out of it. It is also like that. So, language family is identified based on the shared features of a group of language which are there due to shared inheritance. So, the features which are shared are because of the common ancestor, because sometimes languages from different families can also have a common feature, but that can be a result of contact. Due to prolonged contact, features can be shared. But here when we talk about common features for language families, then these features are not there due to prolonged contact or for any other reason. Rather, they are there because they originated from a common source. That is what is believed. So, now how do we know about this common source, or how do we know that a particular language belongs to a particular family? So, there are various methods which are followed to know that. So, some of the popular methods is lexicostatistics and glottochronology, which was established by Maurice Swadesh. So, what it looked at was basically looking at the lexical items and exploring the cognates. So, cognates are the common ancestral words from where the other words are shared in the languages of the same family. So, one should know that cognates have phonological similarities and also the semantic similarities. So, if there are two languages which have a common word, but they mean different things, then they are not cognates. So, here in this example you can see that the word for 10 is phonologically similar in Latin, Greek and Sanskrit, and the meaning is also same, that is 10. Again, for the word mother, we can see that In German it is Mutter, in English it is mother, in Sanskrit it is Matra. So, again when you pronounce it, you know that there is phonological similarity, and from that we derive that maybe the source of all these is one. From one source all these different languages evolved, or all these different words evolved. With due course of time, of course, there was some phonological changes. So, one way is looking at the words, looking at the cognates and deciding whether they originated from one source or not. Another is also looking at the phonological system of the languages, because with due course of time the phonology changes. There are certain rules which describes that, and when we look into historical linguistics, we see that in certain period of time there are certain changes in the sounds. So, in some languages the sounds changed in a different way, while in the other group of languages it changed in a different way. I am not going in details into it, but looking at the change of the phonological system also, it can be decided, or it can be taken that whether this group of language belongs to a certain family or not. Sir William Jones in 1786, on the basis of similarities between the verb paradigms of Sanskrit, Greek and Latin, identified the Indo-European language. So, it is not only about sounds, it is not only about words, it is also about the syntax and morphology, right. So, when we look at an unknown language and we need to decide which language family this particular language belongs to, then of course, we look at the cognates, we look at the phonological changes and also morphosyntactic features. So, everything is actually explored, everything is looked upon, and then only it is decided whether this language belongs to a particular language family or not. So, these are some of the features through which a language gets its family, or of course, it is decided whether it is part of a particular family or not. So, this is a family tree, a conventional family tree of the Germanic languages. So, here, but this is not the complete one, but still you can have a basic idea how the family trees look and how you can see different languages are being derived from. There is Proto-Germanic, and then from Proto-Germanic we have three branches: Proto-West Germanic, Proto-North Germanic and Proto-East Germanic, and then we have again further branches coming out, and then you can locate English here, right. So, from Proto-West Germanic you have English here. So, these things you can have a look in this chart. Now, this is the tree for Indo-Iranian language family. So, if you have a careful look, you can see that from Indo-Iranian you have two branches, Indo-Aryan and Iranian. So, this one is the Indo-Iranian and the upper one is the Indo-Aryan language. And from Indo-Aryan also we have Vedic Sanskrit, Prakrit, and then you can see how other branches are coming out, like from Vedic Sanskrit you have Sanskrit, and from Prakrit you have again different branches. Here in the eastern part you have Magadhi, and from Magadhi you have Uriya, Assamese, Bengali, languages of Bihar which are also termed as Bihari languages like Bhojpuri, Maghi, Maithili. These are the branches coming out. So, the tree, when we talk about language family or language trees, it is not only about just maybe group of 10 language or 20 language, it is a huge system. So, we are looking at the ancestors and how different branches are coming out, because with time languages evolve, languages change, and not only language changes, we also see like rivers, tributaries come out of it. So, new branches come out of it. So, we have new languages, different languages, and that is how we have this complex kind of tree. So, this is the tree for Indo-Iranian language family, and again this is not complete one. So, this is just here to give you an idea. Now, let us see the different language families of India. There are some debates about it, but generally it is said that there are 7 language families of India. Indo-Aryan family has around 574 languages in it. Dravidian language around 153 languages, Tibeto-Burman language 226 languages, Austroasiatic 65, Thai Kadai with few numbers like 6 language, Great Andamanese is considered to have only 2 languages, and Austronesian to again have 2 languages. And then there are some languages which are taken as language isolates. So, we do not know exactly where to put this language, right. We do not know which family this language actually belongs to, and these are pockets of languages. So, we have 1 or 2 language isolates in our country. One of them is Nihali. So, Nihali is a language isolate. So, we are not attaching Nihali with any language families. So, these are the 7 language families. Now, when we talk about these 7 language families, they all have their own features, phonological feature, morphosyntactic feature. So, all of them are there. Yet, as I mentioned that they are now we are talking about India, and all these languages are spoken in this particular geographical area. They also share features because of prolonged contact. So, about sharing features I will talk in my next lecture. Today I will talk more about the features of the families. I will start talking with the feature of Indo-Aryan language. So, Indo-Aryan speakers comprise 78.05% of Indian population. Again it is approximate figure, but yeah, it is taken from census 2011. Dravidian speakers around 19.64%, Austroasiatic speakers like 1.11%, and Tibeto-Burman speakers just 1% of the total population of India. So, you can see the map where all these have been marked. So, you can see the geographical distribution of the languages of these families. So, mostly in the northern part and the central part you see it is the Indo-Aryan languages, and again in the southern part it is Dravidian language. But then do not forget we also have smaller pockets of Dravidian language in this side in the upper part, so in the northern part. And then you also have the Tibeto-Burman or Sino-Tibetan languages in the northeastern part, and Andamanese in these are the Andamanese one, and Austric languages are here. So, you can see that there are smaller pockets. So, now new Indo-Aryan languages can be classified into 4 major groups. So, we as you saw in the tree that there are again classifications and classifications and sub-classifications. So, all those are created for the convenience of studying the languages, and they are grouped depending on their features. So, now when we talk about Indo-Aryan languages, we see depending upon the geographical areas they are spoken, they are divided like northwestern languages, central languages, eastern languages and southwestern languages. So, this is one of the way of classifying these languages. There are also other ways like Grierson, I am sure you have heard of his name, was a pioneer linguist who conducted linguistic survey of India and divided India in late 19th century, and he divided the Indo-Aryan languages into inner and outer sub branches. So, he had this inner circle and outer, and there were languages which were kept as outer and inner one, and so in the outer one actually shared features and the inner one again shared features. So, he divided the languages based on the features, while this one which you saw was mostly divided basis on the geographical distribution. So, now when we talk about Indo-Aryan languages, we see that there is a chain of mutual intelligibility that runs through Indo-Aryan languages, which is not common for other families though. So, in India what do we see when we talk about Indo-Aryan languages? You can see it is like a chain. What do I mean by this chain? This is a language continuum. So, Khadi Boli, which is spoken mostly in western UP and Delhi, can be understood by the eastern UP people who speak Bhojpuri. This can be understood by them. And again Bhojpuri, which is also spoken in some part of Bihar, is understood by the Maithili speakers, who are the neighbors of Bhojpuri speakers. And when I talk about Maithili, Maithili can be understood easily by Suryapuri speakers, and Suryapuri is again spoken in the border area of Bihar and West Bengal. And Suryapuri is understood by Bengali speakers, and Bengali speakers generally understand more or less Assamia. So, what do you see? The languages which are next to the other is understood, but when I say Khari Boli speaker will understand Assamia, that is not so, right. So, Bangla speakers can generally understand little bit of Assamia, and when I say intelligible, that does not mean of course that totally they will understand or they will be fluent speakers of the language. What I mean is that they will understand certain part of the language. So, maybe if someone is talking in Assamia, a Bangla speaker will at least get some context of what they are talking. But Khari Boli speaker may not understand at all what is going on, what is the discourse about. Again, a Bhojpuri speaker will understand little bit of Maithili, but if the Bhojpuri speaker is asked to understand Assamia, he or she might feel difficulty in doing that. So, what I am saying is that the languages which are next to each other is understood better than the languages which are far away. So, this is called language continuum, or also you can say the language chain. In this chain, what do we see is that the languages which are the neighboring language. So, when I talk about say Suryapuri, which is a minor language. So, Suryapuri can be understood, or Suryapuri speakers can understand Maithili and Bangla, right, because Maithili and Bangla are the neighboring languages for Suryapuri. And similarly, Suryapuri will also have features of Maithili and Bangla, because they are neighboring language. So, because they have common features, that is why they understand Maithili and Bangla. So, in Indo-Aryan languages, that is what we see, that the neighboring languages generally understand each other. That also means they share features, but when they are part of one point and then part of the other end of the point, other end of the chain, then it is difficult for them to understand, because the features are not so common or the features become distant. That is why it is not so easy to understand. So, this is a feature of Indo-Aryan languages which we find. So, when we talk about vowels, we see that in Indo-Aryan languages we find diverse types of vowels. So, in Uriya there are only 6 vowels, but in Konkani there are 14 vowels. So, in some of the Indo-Aryan languages there is difference or there is contrast based on quality and quantity. So, I hope you can remember my class on phonology and phonetics where I talked about vowels. So, quality is about the vowel change and quantity is the long and short one. So, some languages like Konkani contrast between both quality and quantity, while some other languages like Bangla, they do not contrast between quantity. There is only difference or contrast based on quality, but not quantity. Nasalized vowels are used. So, like nasalized vowels are used to mark plurality or to mark honorificity in Hindi and many other Indo-Aryan languages. So, we find nasal vowels, we find diverse types of vowels. So, some languages have very few vowels, while others have can have as many as 14 vowels. So, that is the scenario for vowels in Indo-Aryan languages. Now, let us look at consonants. Consonants, generally we find 4-way contrast in stops. So, you find this set which is common for most of the Indo-Aryan languages. So, unaspirated voiceless, k, ch, t, t, p, all these, and then the pairs for aspirated voiceless, unaspirated voiced and aspirated voiced. All this set you can find in most of the Indo-Aryan languages. Some of the languages like Marwari and Sindhi, they also have aspirated nasals, like for m and n they will make it aspirated, right. but again very few languages have it, mostly we do not find that. Rajasthani has aspirated lateral as well. So, we see that aspiration is very important in most of the Indo-Aryan languages, and that is not true for all the languages or languages from different families. That is a feature for Indo-Aryan languages, where we find that aspiration and voicing both plays an important role in the consonants in Indo-Aryan languages. Now, let us look at morphosyntactic system of these languages. Gender is an inherent and classificatory property of nouns. So, the nouns are classified based on gender, and when I say gender, then that does not mean always natural gender is followed. Natural gender is followed for animate objects or for humans, but for inanimate object certain genders are assigned to the objects. So, like anything you say about chair, table, cup, everything gets a gender in many of the Indo-Aryan languages. And why I say that they get gender, or why I say that gender is an inherent part of these languages? Because we find gender controls agreement with the verb. So, we see whether the noun is taken as masculine or feminine, that is reflected in the verb. So, the verb has to agree depending on that, and that is why gender plays an important role in these languages. So, and not only about nouns, also for some other categories like adjectives, adverbs, postpositions, also we find this agreement. So, when we talk about say noun and adjective examples, you can see good girls is changiya kuriya, but change munde is good boys. So, because it is boy masculine, so the adjective is changing, while in the girls again this adjective is same, the agreement is changing because it is girl. So, the adjective has to agree with the noun. In the upper example, you can see that the verb has to agree because of the noun again. So, noun plays an important role. In postpositions also you can find, like depending on the object, sometimes the changes, the word changes because it has to agree with the noun. Mostly when we talk about gender, we find two-way gender, that is masculine and feminine in these languages, but some of the languages like Konkani and Marathi, they have retained the old Sanskrit system and they have three-way gender. So, there is also the neuter gender, but Eastern Indo-Aryan languages like Bangla, Assamese, they do not have a gender agreement. So, some of the people also say that these languages do not have gender. That means actually that these languages, in these languages noun does not need to agree with the verb, there is no agreement in the verb based on gender. These languages use classifiers to classify nouns. So, basically gender is also used to classify the nouns. So, through gender what is being done is that the nouns are classified. So, these languages, Eastern Indo-Aryan languages, they do not use gender system to classify their nouns or any other category, rather they use classifiers to categorize their nouns. So, they have different classifiers which are added after the noun, like in this example you can say ta. So, and these ta, when you say cheleta khai, meta khai, you can say that the verb is same for both the boy and the girl, there is no agreement needed, no change needed depending on the gender of the noun. But ta is again common for here, you can see, because ta has some other meaning, it is classifying the noun in some other way. Right. So, there are different types of classifiers and these different types of classifiers classify nouns not only based on gender, but depending on various other features. So, again I am not going into that. When we talk about Indo-Aryan languages, we also know that these languages are highly inflecting in nature. So, you can see in this example khayengi. So, khayengi, when I am saying, it carries lots of information, like kha is the root verb to eat and a is the third person. So, and then when we nasalize it, a becomes for the plurality or honorificity. So, we also need agreement there, that is why we see also the a thing, which is third person agreement, and a is the plurality and honorificity, and gi is the future tense marker, and gi is also there for feminine, e is the feminine marker. So, it has to agree, and that is why there are lots of information given in the verb. Now, if we see the same example in Bangla, you can see that kha is for again the root word for verb to eat, ba is for future tense, and e is for third person. Na is again for honorificity, khaben is with the honorific term apni. The pronoun or the noun has to be honorific. So, there is this honorificity marking. So, you see that in these nouns lots of informations are given in the one word, and this is quite highly inflecting in nature, that is what we find. So, that is it for today's class. I hope you enjoyed the class. These are some of the readings which are very important for you to read. Please go through them, and thank you.